Alright, first thing I want to say is I apologize for not making any Packers recap for the last couple of weeks. I mean, after I made that last video of me ranting about the Packers and where they were and how terrible they were playing this season, I did not want to talk about them at all. So I just want to apologize for that. But I'm here, I'm back. I just want to recap us beating the ChickenHAWKS yesterday, which was which was such a good game to watch. I know the Packers have went on to lose a couple more games since my last video, and now recently we started winning some by defeating the Eagles and then defeating the Houston Texans last week, which was that game was kind of sloppy, but whatever. And now we just beat the ChickenHAWKS yesterday, which was, like I said, it was a great game to watch, man. It was because Packers fans, we can't stand the Seahawks for obvious reasons. So anytime we play those guys, all I want to do is beat them. And right now, it just seems like at the moment, we can only beat the Seahawks led by Russell Wilson in our house. We can't beat them in their house, and as of right now, they can't beat us here in Lambeau. So those are the advantages that these two teams have in their little mini rivalry. But it is what it is. We can't stand those guys, man. So anytime we beat them, we can get a win over them. It's such a blessing. It really is, and it's even more bigger blessing for me because my birthday is today. So it was a nice present that the Packers gave me yesterday, so I can wake up this morning to a good day. So thank you, Packers, for giving me that nice little birthday present. But anyway, as far as the game itself, I was really worried about Aaron Rodgers coming out of this game because, the guy was just out there playing on one leg pretty much. We don't know how bad his injury is. I haven't looked it up yet. So that's something that we really need to look out for. But the last thing we need right now is him once again being limited inside the pocket, which I'll say this. I mean, it's not always a bad thing because sometimes when Aaron is just sitting in the pocket, he kind of does a better job finding guys open and or at least getting the ball out of his hands, because sometimes when he's able to be mobile, which obviously is something that he's done over his entire career, sometimes it's not always the best thing in the world, because sometimes when you're a mobile quarterback, you can sometimes just get happy feet very quickly when you feel even a little bit of pressure on you, and you'll probably miss some guys open because you're trying to get away too soon. So it's a bad thing, but it's a good thing, but it's a bad thing as well that he's limited to how much he can move around. Overall, you still want Aaron to be able to escape from pressure and get out of the pocket and do find some guys open downfield. But hopefully he can this little leg injury he has right now can eventually get better, because if the Packers want to have any shot of making the playoffs, we need a healthy Aaron Rodgers throughout the rest of this season and the postseason if we make it. Now, obviously, we're sitting at 7-6, so the Packers will have to be win out completely. There's no other way to get in the playoffs. We have we gotta hope that the Lions can either drop a game at some point. It's weird because this whole scenario is very similar to 2014. Is it you guys remember? It was kind of the same thing where the Lions were leading the division, and then the division came down to the Packers and Lions all the way back in 2014, 2015 season, where we beat the Lions last game of the season to win the division. And it can probably come down to that again if we can win out and the Lions drop one game before week 17. So that's something we gotta look at. So I know I haven't really actually talked about the game itself, but it's not too much you can talk about just because we're just happy that we beat them. It's like, to me, even though Aaron Rodgers went out early in the fourth quarter, we were just pretty much kicking their asses, man. Russell Wilson pretty much wasn't able to do much. But all of it wasn't always his fault. I mean, there was some bad passes he was throwing, but then also his receivers were doing a horrible job catching the ball, which led to a couple of his interceptions. We picked them off 5 times total, and plus a fumble late in the game, so that was 6 turnovers overall. So, some of it wasn't always his fault. Some of his receivers were just off. Him and his receivers were just off. And as far as the defensive side, I mean, you wouldn't think we'd be putting up points like that against the Seahawks defense. But this was a Seahawks defense that was without Earl Thomas, and we were able to make some plays downfield against those guys to get the points that we scored. So that was a good thing for us. I also want to say congrats to Jordy Nelson and Aaron Rodgers for tying Favre and Freeman's touchdowns to each other record. They tied it yesterday, which that just brings me back. Like when I was a little kid, I used to love watching Antonio Freeman. He to this day is still my favorite Packer receiver of all time. I love that guy. But congrats to Aaron and Jordy on that. The other thing I want to take away from this game is just once again the MVPs of the offense is the offensive line. There's no question about it. Those guys once again just did a great job protecting Aaron, even though our offensive line is a little banged up as well, but they still keep doing a good job protecting Aaron, despite him being on one leg at this point. And the second thing is I'm proud of the defense on how they played. They didn't sack Russell Wilson that many times, but they were able to hurry him, get some hits, pressure him into some bad throws, and to lead to some of those, to lead to mistakes, and that's a good thing by them. Yeah, I shit on the guy, but I'm gonna still say I'm happy Demarius Randall was able to make some plays yesterday, obviously with his 2 picks. I'm happy about that. So it reminded me a lot of how our secondary used to be, where we were just ball hogs, picking off quarterbacks all the time, man. I said that in previous videos how much I missed that. It was so great to see it again. Seeing those guys create turnovers. So I'm happy the way defense played yesterday, and the offense played all right. They still wasn't spectacular. I hate to be a pessimist, but there's still a lot of room to be better. There still is a lot of room. And the last couple of weeks, we played teams outside the Seahawks that didn't have the greatest defenses in the world. So, the Bears and the Vikings, who our next 2 games are against, obviously had the best defense in our division. So, if the Packers offense really has turned it around, they're going to get tested. And we got to hope that they can go out there and make plays, man. Because like I always say, if the offense comes out struggling and they're not able to do anything, and they're just not able to pick up first downs and just come out slow, we're not going to win the game. We're just not going to. And Packers fans, we all know that formula. So, yeah, that's all I got. All we can do is just win out, hopefully, and see maybe it can lead us into winning the division. But that's it. Peace.